Hello everybody, this is Zashin of Zashin Zone. Sorry I haven't been around in a little while, but Obama really stuck his foot into it this weekend. Allowed himself to do something that was horrendous for the country of Israel. Horrendous that the United States did not back on a nonpartisan position of backing Israel. For 50 years, well, more like 60 years, we have backed Israel as a nation. And Obama decided to walk away from that. We've got Democrats and Republicans on both sides of the aisle decrying how this was wrong. If Hillary Clinton had been voted in as the next president, I honestly believe he would have used the U.S. vote of no to stop this resolution, but strictly in a bipartisan, petty condition, he's chose to make things hard on Trump. And as we're going to find out after January 20th, I don't believe this will be as hard as Obama thinks. I'm going to let the video play. As normal, I'll stop it if I've got a short comment in here. But this is horrendous.
Welcome to Hannity. President Obama stabbing Israel in the back on his way out of office. I'm Eric Bolling in for Sean tonight. Former U.S. Ambassador to the UN, John Bolton, is fired up and will be here in just a moment with reaction. But first, in what many are calling the ultimate betrayal in America's alliance with Israel, the Obama administration earlier today allowed the United Nations to pass a resolution condemning Israeli settlements in East Jerusalem and the West Bank as, quote, a flagrant violation of international law. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is reacting by saying, quote, Israel rejects the shameful anti-Israel resolution at the UN and will not abide by its terms. Netanyahu adding, quote, the Obama administration not only failed to protect Israel against this gang up at the UN, it colluded with it behind the scenes. And President-elect Donald Trump is responding by tweeting this, quote, as to the UN, things will be different after January 20th. Here now with reaction is former U.S. Ambassador to the UN and Fox News contributor John Bolton. Thank you, Ambassador Bolton. Wow, big day at the UN. So tell us, do you think that the UN Security Council colluded with the Obama administration to bring this vote today?
Well, I think certainly the sponsors of the resolution, the Egyptians, some of the others, some of the 5 permanent members of the council, including Great Britain, obviously had to consult with the Obama administration to tell them what was in the resolution.
Why? Why bother to tell Obama what they're going to put in the resolution? They know Obama is so pissed off that Trump won that Obama's probably just going to let it pass no matter what. They could probably pass a resolution to bomb Israel out of existence and Obama would abstain at this point. Obama has pulled a petty position now because his party lost, because his policies and Senator Clinton or Secretary Clinton's actions while she was Secretary of State have been found wanting.
Resolution so that it was sufficient for Obama to order an abstention. The United States could have killed this resolution by voting no. It did vote no on a very similar resolution in 2011. But this was, and you said it exactly right at the top of the show, this was a stab in the back against the Israelis. It was entirely predictable. I would say this for people in the pro-Israel community in the United States who defended Obama's Middle East policy over these last 8 years. You should have seen this coming, and this is what you get for supporting Barack Obama.
Yeah, and this is a shot, I guess, it's at Israel, but also President Obama had a pretty contentious relationship with Benjamin Netanyahu.
Well, I think it goes beyond the personal. I really think this was an effort to box the incoming Trump administration in, and it violates nearly 50 years of American bipartisan policy on the Middle East, going back to the iconic resolution 242 after the 1967 war, which established the principle of land for peace. This resolution says basically Israel's occupation is illegitimate, therefore it has no land to give back in exchange for peace. Contrary to what the Obama administration has said, this puts a huge thumb on the scale against Israel. It does go to final status. It does affect Israel's security. It undermines it in profound ways. The consequences of this resolution are going to be felt for many, many years, all negative on Israel and substantially negative on the United States itself.
And let's be clear, there was quite a bit of bipartisan pushback to the U.S. abstaining from this veto. In other words, they could have vetoed it, they could have killed the resolution. They didn't, and when you think of on the right, Paul Ryan, John McCain, the list goes on. Even on the left, Chuck Schumer said the United States should have vetoed this resolution.
Yeah, they should have been, particularly in the Democratic Party, clearer on this going back for a long, long time. This subject of what Barack Obama might do with respect to Israel during the post-election, pre-inauguration period has been the subject of discussions that I've participated in for 2 years or more. It was entirely foreseeable. And now we see the consequences.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Israel's response. Now, will Israel change any policy? Will they stop building? Will they stop developing? Will they stop settling?
Not a chance, and nor should they. I tell you, this I do think, actually, contrary to what Obama said, is the death knell of the so-called two-state solution, because it shows, once again, it is fundamentally unworkable. And I think Netanyahu and a nearly unanimous Israeli public opinion will support him on that. With respect to the United States, I think it's time to stand up for a principle I've certainly advocated for a long time, which is votes in the United Nations should have consequences. We've got two issues here: the 14 countries that voted in favor of this resolution and the United Nations as a whole. Personally, what I would recommend to the president-elect would be, once he takes office, he should say this resolution is illegitimate and the United States is going to seek to repeal it. Now, if that fails, and that's the most likely outcome, we should cut our contribution to the United Nations, perhaps in toto, until this resolution is repealed.
This is an interesting concept, Ambassador Bolton. Right now, we account for somewhere around 20 to 22% of the total budget of the UN. So you're suggesting if the resolution isn't repealed, then we go ahead and pull the 20%, that 20% of their budget?
Yeah, look, my experience with the United Nations, which goes back a long way, is that there are only two aspects of American power that are really respected in the United Nations. One is the veto in the Security Council, which Barack Obama threw away today, and the other is our money. I've personally engaged in telling specialized agencies in the UN and others that if something happens contrary to our wishes, we'll cut the money off. We have done that. I remember well in 1991 when the Security Council authorized the use of force against Saddam Hussein's invasion of Kuwait. Yemen voted no on that resolution. Jim Baker, Secretary of State in the U.S. chair at the Council, turned to those of us sitting behind him and said, that's the most expensive vote Yemen has ever cast, and we substantially eliminated their foreign aid budget. There are a lot of steps we can take here, and I hope the incoming Trump administration looks at all of them.
So I think it was 14-0. It was a unanimous vote by the Council. Who would be the most affected? I guess Egypt represents the Arab League. Who would be the most affected if we do pull back or eliminate foreign aid to these countries?
Well, I think that's one option. I'm not necessarily saying we should do it in every case. There's some of these countries where we have no effective leverage now, like Venezuela. But, you know, people have talked about what our relationship with Russia might be. This shows, regardless of personal relationships, Russia is always prepared to shaft the Middle East, the United States in the Middle East. It's been doing it under Obama for 8 years. This is one more piece of evidence of it. It's just extremely distressing that even Great Britain didn't abstain on this resolution, and it shows just how much difficulty there is in the United Nations to try and carry out a coherent American foreign policy.
You bring up Russia. Talk to us a little bit about the back and forth that went down today. Vladimir Putin.
All right, the last 2 minutes of that video basically get into discussing things having to do with the Russians, and I could care less. I really could care less. Trump and Vladimir are going to find their own way to how they balance their discussions. This is about Israel. This is about the United States backing Israel. And, if Great Britain and Egypt and Russia and 11 other countries, several of which I can only assume are European, decide they want to vote to punish a country that is legal. There is nothing illegal about the state of Israel or the country of Israel. It was put in place after World War II. United Nations has recognized it as a legal country. The lands they are settling on were part of them winning a war in 1967 where other countries attacked them. You want to know what my answer is? And if Trump wants to hear from somebody that was give him a truly radical answer, fuck Europe. Pull every troop, tank, airplane, everything out of Europe. Shut down the money to NATO. Shut down the money to the UN. And everybody we bring out of Europe, put them in Israel. Make Israel the strongest little place in the world for military might. And when next rock that comes out of Hamas over there in the Palestinians, hey, knock them down. Go in there, find the weapons, destroy the weapons, show them through military might just what can be brought to bear. When the rockets come out of Lebanon, go in, knock them down. The Israelis have it right. They defend themselves. It's time the United States went back to the plate, showed the world that we are ready to defend our ally. The strongest ally we've got in the Middle East is Israel. And Barack Obama, with his attitudes on diplomacy, his lead from the back, his abandon our old ties, has finally put the United States in a position where if we back down from this, it's yet another thing that the governments of the world will use against us in the near future. Every time the United States backs down on something that is wrong and should not be allowed to go forward, that is a win for all the authoritarian regimes in this world that would love to use the UN to enforce their policies. If Europe does not want to handle the realization of supporting a true democracy in the Middle East, and they want to abandon Israel, well, then it's time that we pull back and let them handle their own problems. Now, I supported Great Britain's Brexit idea, just like I'm sure many in Great Britain supported us in electing Trump on the nationalism idea. Yet the same people would abandon, no, let me correct. The people that supported probably wouldn't have abandoned, but the left-wing leaders that support this abandoning of Israel do not understand the reality of every inch that has ever been given to try and get peace. A mile has been demanded. Well, it's time to stop giving any more inches. I'm sorry I've been rather forceful in this commentary, but this was just wrong. This was Obama being petty with our national policies and should never have been a problem that Trump should have to worry about, because this was a nonpartisan issue. The United States supports Israel. Period. Like, subscribe, favorite, even dislike. Show me something that y'all are listening when I speak. Because right now I have no feedback on my channel. I'm getting some views, not a lot, but some, but nobody talks back to me. If you don't like what I'm doing, tell me what I'm doing wrong so that I can try to be better in my presentation. But I want to let I'm doing basically a response video, my opinion, but I have to give the time for the video to put out its point. I don't want to put out chunks of the video without including the time before and after the point I want to talk about, so that it is in context. Zashin of Zashin Zone, thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful Merry Christmas and New Year's.